What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm David Greenspan. As you know, your host for the Mindshare podcast, and this is season 4, which is almost coming to an end now. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast forums. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep In Such Systems and the Buzz Conference. Now, be sure to check out our sponsors on the website, www.mindshare101.com. You can find out everything that they have to offer. I also got to remind you, I am so excited to remind you about this right now. Announce to you, if you haven't heard about yet, that Mindshare 101 is hosting our first ever Mindshare M3 retreat. Now, this is taking place, mark these days down, book it in your calendar. This is taking place April 16th to the 21st in the Mind Riviera. And this exclusive retreat is going to help you take your business to your next level. We're going to work on mindset. You're going to mastermind with some incredible like-minded people. And of course, we're going to teach you the art of building Mindshare. This hotel is out of the world. It is an incredible destination. You have to check it out. Go over to mindshare101.com/retreat. Spots are limited, so do not wait. Now, next to that, we are almost at 100 reviews on iTunes. And so I'd like to remind you to please go over to iTunes, take a moment to rate the show, leave a nice review, tell us how much you love the show, love our guests. And we could fast forward that by going to ratethispodcast.com/Mindshare101. Your name will be entered into some draw to win some free Mindshare 101 swag. So some badass stuff. You definitely want to be part of that. And of course, just before we get in the show, I do want to shout out one of our awesome coaching clients. This time it's Chris Jackson. After reviewing his 2022 plan, which we put in place last year to see what he accomplished this year, and as we embarked on our plan for 2023, which is now set and ready to go, he had this to say, and I quote, "In this changing market, I've seen over a 10% increase in my business, while many people are struggling to even put a deal together. My scheduling has me making the most of my time. I've been on 4 vacations this year. My 2023 goals are already set and even bigger than 2022. I know what I need to do to get there, and my mindset is so powerful that I believe I will do all of that and more. That right there is success." End quote. Look, I keep saying it. We put in the effort so we get the results. We plan way ahead of the rest of the pack, so we always stay ahead of the pack. Mindshare masters are not most people, and that is exactly what happens when you coach with us. At Mindshare 101, you are going to experience a coaching program like nothing else out there. This is you. This is me. This is a completely custom tailored experience for your needs. So whether you're new or you're a veteran in the business, our one-to-one coaching is your answer. Inquire with us today. Go to mindshare101.com/coaching, and one of our Mindshare experience coordinators will be in touch with you within the hour to set up a call. Now, today's episode is number 210. He is a husband, a father who pushes himself to live in excellence so he can set an example for those around him. At one point in his life, he weighed over 300 pounds before getting focused on his health and losing more than 100 pounds without fad diets or weight loss drugs. As an action taker, with his finger on the pulse, who focuses on service to others above all else, leading him to produce more than 7 figures in revenues no matter what industry he has worked in. Not one to turn away from a challenge. He looks to get out of his comfort zone as much as possible. From tech support in a software startup to vice president of a multi-million-dollar consulting company, he understands what it means to start at the bottom and work his way to the top. A servant first, operating with the utmost integrity and humility, but not afraid to tell it like it is. Confidence and empathy are his superpowers. By going all in on every aspect of his life, he strives to inspire success-driven winners to become the most elite versions of themselves. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare podcast is multi-million-dollar closer, Drewby Wilson. Drew, welcome to the Mindshare podcast, brother.
Brother, thank you so much for having me, man. I am just grateful for the opportunity to be here, to share with your audience of listeners, to anyone who's taking the time to be here, whether they're live or they're listening on the replay, man. For folks to take time out of their day to listen to content, to podcasts like this, to develop themselves, man, that's really what I see as the future success of everyone in the community. And to be here to share some time with you, man, I'm just grateful and honored to be here, brother.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. I know we got connected through a mutual colleague, and it's cool, man. I've been following a lot of the stuff that you're up to there, you and the crew, and it's definitely inspiring stuff. And I'm excited to be able to share a whole bunch of it with everybody today. And just to get started, I just read this off in your bio. Um, Dude, you've lost weight because of this way of thinking. You've told me that you've gotten better relationships because of this, and you're better off financially because of it. What does going all in mean to you?
I think going all in to me is really a matter of deciding you will do whatever it takes to keep moving forward. Because a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to the result. And I'm going to just be honest with you here. Sometimes that result changes, right? The destination can move from place to place on our journey. And so to me, going all in is just a willingness to take that next step. It may be hard, it may be difficult, right? One of my favorite quotes from one of my mentors is doing the work despite how you feel about it, despite the challenges. If you just show up and keep going, and you keep going all in with every ounce of energy that you have left, well, then heck, man, if you don't get to take that next step or that next breath, at least when you get to that next phase of life, whatever it may be for you, whether you're going to heaven or you're just or you're reading whatever, right? Doesn't matter. Whatever you subscribe to, like if you've gone all in, then you know going into that next phase, then hey, I've got nothing to lose or be ashamed of. And I think that's the thing is so many people have that regret of leaving it on the table, right? Like, oh man, had I just that one extra step or that one extra phone call, that one extra, I love you before I walked out the door, that's going all in. So I really just that's what it is to me, man.
I love that, dude. So, because so much of it comes down to even some of the tiny little things that we do in a day that we take for granted. Maybe the relationships we have, or the things we say, the "I love you" on the way out, the kiss goodnight before bed. We take all this stuff for granted, and we kind of miss out on a lot of this stuff sometimes. And by missing out on it or not applying some of that, well, are we all in? Right? And to the way you just described it, we're obviously not. And I would agree with that completely, right? So I love the way you described that about it's just you got to really take those steps to do that next thing. And I think that to anybody here that's tuned in right now, as you listen to that, right, and you think to yourself about anything that you're trying to achieve, he just said it, and we all know it. Shit's gonna happen. It's not gonna go to plan the way you want it to, always. Just this is life. But if you can really put in that concerted effort to really push yourself to do those little things that are going to take you next level, this is what most people don't do. They talk about it, but they don't do it. Right? Or like, hey, most people will talk about what they want in life, but never achieve it. You a goal setter?
Me, I'm a combination of setting goals, but setting smart goals, right? And I don't know what
Okay.
the actual anagram for smart really means, but I think it's like specific, measurable, attainable. I forget what the other two, and then the other one, like the last one's time sensitive. But to me, when
Yeah.
I'm looking at goals, I'm doing it as kind of checkpoints. Because as I said, my journey's not over until I close my eyes and don't get to open them again. So I can't just say like, "Hey, my only goal in life is to do this," because then what's going to happen? Well, I'm going to do that thing, and then probably my life will be over because you manifest exactly what you asked for, right? When you tell the universe, "This is what I want," it will give it to you. So you have to be very specific with your words and the way that you talk to yourself, right? That's why the mindset side of this is so important. And so if you're going to set a goal, use it as a benchmark. Don't just set like when you're thinking if you're a football fan, the first down is the goal, but then there's another goal at the end of the field. And then after that, there's a whole nother set of circumstances. So I'm actually reading a book by Simon Sinek right now called The Infinite Game, because you're
Yeah.
either playing an infinite game where it's always continuing, or you're playing a finite game where there's one end result, but then that's the end. And none of us
Right.
are looking for our life to be at the end. So to me, setting a goal is like, all right, this is the next benchmark. Hey, financially, I want to hit this number. And not just any number arbitrarily, but like, I want this number for this very specific reason. And I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs get hung up in, like, oh, I want to make 6 figures or I want to make 7 figures. And it's like, cool. Why? Well, because that's a great number. And that's a artificial thing from the social. Okay, but like you don't need 7 figures to live an awesome life. What kind of
Right.
life do you want, right? Success is a perspective. What you see as success, David, may be different than what I see.
Yep.
What happens is we can agree to help each other create that version for ourselves, or we can do what other people do and be like, well, you're wrong. That's not what success is. My version's the only way, right? My way or the highway. That's what a lot of people do. But into my world, it's like, hey, you want to have Lamborghinis and mansions? Badass. Let's make that a reality. Oh, you just want to make enough money to go on vacation with your family and then know all of your bills are paid because you grew up in a house where you were constantly going without water or constantly going without electricity, and just knowing that your bills are paid is going to give you that comfort to where you can provide the life for your family that you see as success. Badass. Let's do that. Because if we can get you there and we can adjust your mindset to just being happy there and you can find gratitude there, well, guess what's going to happen? That's going to be momentum. And so you're going to get to
Right.
that next phase and be like, well, heck, I did this. I can certainly do that. And then again, if you're just deciding to go all in and you take that next step and you take that next step, then guess what? You're going to get there eventually. It may not be the there that you thought it was going to be originally, but as you grow and as you become who you're meant to be on this earth, you're going to get there. And that's the beauty of life.
And that's a huge message right there. I think that yeah, right. Instead of it being finite, it's infinite, right? Another way that was put to me through a book I was reading through Kevin Hart about I think it was titled "Can't Make This Shit Up," but he talked about the fact that first he doesn't believe he made it, and every single time he gets to somewhere that he wants to be, he realizes that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be further out, so he calls it pushing the goalposts out. Kind of the
Yep.
same analogy with the football. Um, but it's important though that people understand what they want, right? And it's important that people understand that it's not just about dollars, it's not just about numbers, it's not just about business. It's got to be about family. It's got to be about personal health, right? So on that, do you sit down and go through a process of setting goals at some particular time of the year and then track that stuff throughout the year?
Man, so I have daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly goals. And then obviously we have
Yeah.
lifetime goals as well. So,
Yeah.
like, it's funny because, again, they're just small little checks and balances. So, we live by something called the G code. It is our simple
Okay.
way of basically gamifying personal development. We know that there's 4 areas of life that are really important. And if we just make sure we're paying attention in those 4 areas of life every day, and we track that, right? Because what gets measured gets improved. Well, then we
Yeah.
can give a point system to our personal development. And we'll know, hey, if we're not doing certain things, that point score doesn't go up. So, to kind of simplify it, the G code is the code to greatness: gratitude, genetics, grind, and group. Your gratitude is your mindset, right? You have to show gratitude because if you can't be appreciative of what you have, you're never going to be in a position to appreciate what you can get. So you're never going to actually deserve it. So even if you do get it, you're going to lose it because you don't have gratitude for it. Genetics, that's your health and your wellness, right? Like if you're not having the energy to go out and do the things you need to do by going all in and building the life you want to live, well, then there's going to be a problem. So you got to focus on those things. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to be lifting crazy weights in the gym or what, but like intentionality is important. Are you
Hmm.
working out? Are you moving your body? Are you focusing on what you're fueling yourself with? That's the genetic side of thing because some people are born with issues, right? Like I have an illness or I have a this that I have to deal with. Well, okay, well, what are you doing to make up for that situation? Focusing on your genetics every day. Your grind. I mean, we're all entrepreneurs, right? So we know the grind. Everybody loves the grind. What are you doing that's actually intentional to move the needle forward? Not every day is going to be about making money, but if money is one of your goals, then put that down on there. Hey, did I make my financial goal today? Did I make my $500 goal? Did I make my 200 phone calls? Did I have 10 conversations? Like, put those metrics in place, and then now you have a place to track it. And the last one is your group. Hey, where did you spend time on others with zero expectation in return? How did you pour into someone else and provide wisdom, provide value? Just a little bit of effort to go above and beyond. Because when you do that, you're basically telling the universe that you live in abundance and that you can give to others. And that's just going to make more room for it to pour into you. So you got 4 areas, right? And if you do those things every day, you get your 4 points. Bingo, 4 points a day. So now I've got a daily system to track in my personal development. You see the number go up, it's impossible to not
Buddy.
see your life improving.
You know what? I've got a very similar system, laid out a little differently. Like, I mean, but it's essentially a point system, and that's the whole thing. I mean, being an athlete, being a coach in rep sports, and to me, like on baseball, we want to get a lot of runs across the plate, right? In hockey, you want to put
Yep.
a lot of pucks in the net. So we're always looking at a scoreboard. Well, it's much the same. You lay out the scoreboard and you track that daily, weekly, monthly, annually. It's impossible not to grow. It's impossible not to learn about where you can improve, and it's impossible not to be winning because most
Yep. And
people won't do this stuff.
we have this cool app, this little website that we do this on called the G Code. So if you go to
Yep.
dailygcode.com, you can download this. And again, everybody has their own system. As long as you have a system, that's what matters. But I can't really show you because we're on the camera, but I have a 1,220-day streak. I've been doing this system every single day for 1,220 days in this tracking unit. So I can look back over
Is this
that
it right here?
1,200 days.
Is this the right URL right there?
That's the one,
That's it.
dailygcode.com. That's the
Perfect.
one.
For
I
everybody
appreciate
watching
you
live
putting that
right
up
now,
there.
go to it. I got it up on the screen right there.
Thank you, sir. And so, but that's the thing, man. 1,200 days in a row, I've been doing this. And if you ask anyone who knows me and says, well, hey, what happened to Drewby in the last 1,200 days? Well, my life has changed, man. I've written best-selling books. I have podcasts. I've spoken on stages, traveled all over in private jets, and done all these cool things. But more importantly, my relationship has gotten better. My health has improved.
Yeah.
Yes, financially, I'm making more money, but like the abundance that I can do the things with that money as a tool, as a resource, like that's where I'm really getting to win. And I mean, I get to be on cool podcasts with guys like you, David. I get to share some of this wisdom.
Appreciate that, man.
So like doing these things every day has added up. So that's just one of the many things that I track, but daily, boom, weekly, hey, I know I need to do these amount of calls and have these many conversations every week if I want to make my sales quota. Hey, I know once a month I got to make sure I'm checking in with my team and my content curators so that all my content's getting out there and I'm providing enough, stuff to share the message and get more people on the train. Like there's all these little things that we're constantly having to do, but it always comes back to exactly what you said. Do you have a point system? Do you have a way to measure these things and track the progress? Because as soon as you start tracking it, that's where you can pinpoint, well, this worked and this didn't. I probably shouldn't do that anymore. Hey, I spent $1,000 with this marketing company and I know they sent me 100 leads. Out of those 100 leads, I only got 5 sales. Maybe that's good. Maybe it's not good. I don't know. What's your margin on your sale, right? What's your profits? Maybe it's $1,000 per sale. So like, cool, we made $5,000 on $1,000 investment. But what if it's only $5 per sale, right? So knowing these numbers in
tracking,
every
measuring,
area, dude, it's so important.
So tell me this then, because I mean, listen, shit happens in a day, things go on. How do you start your day off on the right foot? No matter what's going on. I mean, because again, life is life, things happen. But that is there a morning routine that kind of helps you stay just completely lit every day?
I can give you my morning routine. It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
Brother. I'm like, I laugh to myself because I'm sometimes think I might be a robot. I know it's not true, but sometimes I question it, right? But like, so literally my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. 7 days a week. Doesn't matter where I'm at, what time zone, 4 a.m. that alarm's going off. And so the first thing I do every day is I wake up and I drink water. I turn my alarm off on my phone, and then I grab my phone and I write down the 5 things I'm grateful for. All right, that's why I have a 1,220-day streak in the app because that's the first thing I'm doing. As soon as I'm waking up, I'm like reaching over, I'm looking for my wife. All right, cool. Thank you, God. Thank you, angels. Thank you, body's blessed. Grabbing my ice cold Yeti water, chugging that bad boy down because you're dehydrating yourself while you're sleeping.
Yep.
And so if you want to get that instant burst of energy, that cold water kind of like, whoo. All right. And then you get hydrated so it's easier to get moving and lubricated, right? Cool. Write down the things I'm grateful for. Because if I know I can focus on gratitude first thing in the morning, anything else that comes at me throughout the day, right? I live by a calendar, but obviously things come up. There's distractions. There's stuff that the fires in business. Well, when those things occur, even if it's bananas crazy bad, I can still look back and go, well, I'm grateful that my wife is still living with me after we almost weren't together. Hey, I'm grateful my son is still in the room next to me. hey, it's awesome to be on a podcast and have the opportunity to share my story with people that will listen and maybe actually learn something and change their life. Hey, okay, well, whatever this problem is ain't so bad. So let's get it in and figure it out. Now let's just clear our mind, focus on what's the problem and what are we going to do to make a solution happen as soon as possible.
I love that, dude. We talk about this so often. I mean, so what you're telling me is that you don't open your eyes and immediately go to social media or email to figure out what the hell the world is screaming about.
No, sir. That's a bad way to get your day started. Because, like, if you start in that negative mindset, like, it's hard to get out of that hole, right? Like, once you start in a rut, like, you're kind of in the rut until you get out of it. So, to me,
Yeah.
it's like waking up, get lubricated, get focused on the gratitude. And then I hate working out, right? Like, I used to be 315 pounds. It's not something I love doing, but I know you got to eat the frog. So, the first thing I'm doing after I get up and get my gratitude and everything done, I read 10 pages of a book because I think educating yourself is important. And then I go to the gym. And if I'm not in the gym, I'm going out and walking or running or doing some sort of physical exercise because, one, if you get it done early in the day, it's done and you don't have to do it later. A lot of people, yeah, I'll get to that after work. And then there's something that comes up with the family, or I got to go pick up McDonald's, or I got to do this or that, or you don't get there, right? Like, we talked about this. Time is not something that you just have a whole abundance of. You're given a limited amount, so you have to be focused. So to me, it's like I'm going to just get in and get this workout done as soon as possible, and then I can start the rest of my day.
Okay, I'm going to get to time in 1 second here, but I want everybody to listen. First off, for those of you tuned in on the audio to this show today, um, make sure you go check out this guy's Instagram account. Uh, when he talks about at one point being 315 pounds, go check out his Instagram account because you can't see him right now. So you need to understand where this is coming from when I tell you to do that. The second thing is for those of you that are regular listeners, for those of you that are coaching clients, you see any similarities between what he's saying? And you guys got to understand something. We've spoken once on the phone. This is the second time we're talking, and this is probably a more in-depth conversation than we had on the phone. This is the first time we're getting to know each other. Understand what he said about his morning routine. Wake up, drink water, practice gratitude, get lubricated for the day. So check out what you got to accomplish, then get at it. No different than what I tell you guys, right? Because your body's dehydrated. Anyways, I don't need to repeat that because you just said
Hey,
it. But
success leaves clues,
because
man.
I say it often,
Success leaves clues.
dude. I say it all, but I say it all the time, right? People don't take into consideration how important this. As you grab yours, I'm grabbing mine. This cup of water right here. It is
Yes, sir.
powerful, right? To look at and understand what are we doing. To understand how important gratitude is, because how often do you get that? Oh yeah, okay. When you talk about gratitude, they're like, "Oh man, this guy's like woo woo," right? No, okay, you don't have to do it. And to everybody tuned in, you don't have to do it. You just won't get to where you want to go because you're going to allow the pollution to always block that, right? You're never going to be able to recognize the good things that you do have. You know, and I've told the story a million times before, so my listeners are going to be like, "Oh man, I already know the story." But to you, Drewy, I had a guy one day tell me he doesn't have anything to be grateful for. Here he is coaching with me. He's got a roof over his head, money in the bank, car, gas in the car, food, this. He's got everything, a family. Didn't put it in perspective. Now, you brought up the word time, and we had a cool little convo about that just before we went live today. And I would like to ask you to repeat kind of maybe what you told me there. But as I talk about the trick to being consistent, talk to me, please. Talk to us about how you stay so organized and on the ball because you just mentioned it. It's about operating, right, and getting certain things done. How do you do that? How do you stay so focused? I mean, the 4 6s is probably where we're both going with this right now.
Yeah, man, I'd love to share that strategy with you. I'm glad you brought it up. It's something that I've really
Please.
developed and kind of honed in the last 6 months or so. I've been living it for probably 3 years, but now I'm really starting to build like an actual process that I can share with folks. And so glad you're going to give me this opportunity. So the 4 6s, right? When you hear people in this world, this personal development and entrepreneurship, they talk about balance. And you get one of two mindsets. You get the guys that are like, there's no such thing as balance. You got to grind until your face falls off. That's the only way to be successful. And then you got folks that are like, well, you know, a balance scale reads 0 and nobody wants to be a 0, but you also don't want to lose your family or lose your business because you can't have both, like you can't wear both hats at the same time. I disagree. I think there is a way to create balance, but I think it also comes back to the way that you manage your time. Time is the most valuable resource we have. You can't buy it. You can't win it in a poker tournament. Nobody's going to give you a box of it Christmas morning, right? Old Saint Nick ain't just bringing a bag down for you. So if you think about time and energy being your finite resources, well, 24 hours in a day. We all get the same 24 hours, and we all agree that that's really what one day is the equivalent of. So now you break that down equally. There's 4 6-hour chunks. Well, everybody has to sleep. Like, that's a non-negotiable. You can only go like 2 or 3 days without sleep, and then you don't have a choice. Your body will shut down. So if we just assume 6 hours of sleep every night, and I know there's going to be some people that are like, 6 is unhealthy. You have to have 8. Whatever. Pick the number you want to pick. I pick 6 because I can live that way and operate that way right now. So while I'm in this
season,
I
see 6, I get excited. Like if I see 6, I get excited.
Bingo. You know what I mean? So let's just take 6 off the top, and that leaves 3 chunks left. Well, what are the important areas of our life? Family and relationships. That's always number 1. And if you don't have family, I know some people are weird about that. Well, what are the relationships in your life that matter? Maybe it's your dog. Maybe it's your friends. Maybe it's, whatever. You have relationships that matter to you. Then you have your business, right? Your business is what makes you money. It's what provides all the resources that you use for your family. Like, it's a non-negotiable thing. And then the last thing is always ourselves, because typically we put ourselves last. That's why people suffer with their health, right? They start getting overweight because they're not making time to go to the gym because they're putting someone else's issues in front of their own. Their mind gets kind of goofy. They burn out because they're not taking that rest and recharge moment. And so people put themselves last. But if we break that down, you got 6 hours that you can spend on your family, 6 hours you can spend on your business, and 6 hours you can spend on yourself. God willing, you get a 24-hour day to live. Now, if you've ever spent 6 hours doing anything that you enjoy, maybe with your wife, right? The night you got married, maybe, 6 hours at the park with your kids running and playing with not a care in the world. Like, that stuff matters to people. Yeah. 6 hours working on a project that you're super excited about, right? Playing music or creating a new toy, whatever. That stuff that you get hype about, you can do a lot of stuff in 6 hours. Now, what if you lived every day and thought, hey, I get 6 hours to spend on my family. And that's great because I'm also going to get 6 hours in my business. And I'm also going to get 6 hours on myself. And then you start looking at, okay, what are the important parts of the day that need to be done? Well, in my family or relationships, for me, I like to drop my son off at school. So there's 30 minutes of my day, dropping him off at school. Right. Hey, I know we're going to have dinner every night. So there's another hour. I know we're going to do this, this, and this. So here's a couple more hours. Well, shoot, there's my 6 hours a day that I'm spending on my family. And if I just know I'm intentional about that time, then they're going to be happy. They're going to understand that I have to also equally spend time working so that we can have the life that we want to live. So now when I walk into my business, instead of being like, damn, my family's at home, my wife is pissed, my kid thinks I'm a jerk because I'm always on my phone looking at emails. No, I walk into my business with the mindset of, cool, I'm here to get down. I got 6 hours to get stuff done. So whether that's calling the damn leads, sending emails, creating content, getting on a podcast like this, whatever it is that needs to be done in that 6 hours, I can go in and be intentional about getting it done. Then the same thing in my mornings. Go ahead.
No. Forgive me.
I'll finish out and we'll circle back. But
yeah.
When you get into your personal side, well, hey, I know I need to spend an hour a day working out because I don't ever want to be 315 pounds. I don't ever want to be sitting in heaven looking down on some other dude living in my house with my wife, raising my son with my money because I was too much of an asshole to go to the gym. That's not okay with me. And I hope someone who's listening to this is looking at themselves in the mirror of their car or wherever they're at going, I don't want to be that guy either. There would be nothing worse than to sit up in heaven and look down and go, damn, that person gets to enjoy the life that I wanted because I couldn't take time for myself, because I couldn't be intentional about what I choose to put in my mouth and how I choose to get up and take action every day. Like, let that sink in for a minute, folks. I really want you to think about that. That's not okay. You need to live a life of intention. And so spending an hour, spending 30 minutes, whatever that damn time is, like, do that. Be intentional about it. Because when people start asking you, like, well, how do you get everything done? Well, the calendar is my boss, and I know there's areas of my life that are important. So I'm intentional about every one of those areas, and they're the priority on my calendar. Well, how do you go and do fun things? And how do you make sure you take your wife on dates? Well, guess what? It goes on the calendar and it's accounted for in that 24 hours of the day. And guess who's in charge of that calendar? Me. I decide what goes on it. I decide what doesn't go on it. And until you learn to create boundaries in your life and start respecting your time, other people aren't going to respect it either. Every time you pick up the phone, as soon as it rings, you're letting someone else distract you from your greatness. You need to create those boundaries. You need to have these processes in your life, and you need to decide really what's important to you. It's not about what I think is important, what's important to you. Because once you've got that figured out, then you figure out what goes into those blocks of time every day. And everything else becomes a question of, is it serving to help me get what I want out of life? No, sorry, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. Sorry. No, I can't come to that networking event and hang out for 4 hours and have everybody else ask me for stuff because I know that 4 hours is committed to my wife. And I don't care how much you pay me, that time is not replaceable there. Right? Or if it is, well, then, hey, babe, I'm going to have to shift and move these 4 hours to another day because these folks are going to pay me 10 grand to come in and speak to their sales team for that day. So why don't you just come with me, hang out with me at the event, listen to me speak, and then we'll take 4 hours in the evening and we'll take some of that money and have some fun with it. Cool, I can get down with that. But again, I still have to make that time up. I can't just sacrifice time with her or my son or anybody else because then it all falls apart.
I feel like a bobblehead today as I just sit there nodding to everything you're saying. I'm just sitting but it's amazing, dude, because it's one of the things I said. I was on a stage last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Man, I don't even remember anymore. And I remember talking to this audience, and we were talking about that. And I asked everybody, I said, like, and I don't know what those final days look like, right? At the end of it all, I don't know what it is to lay in that bed and people go like, what do you wish you had done? But the one thing that we do, because I haven't been there, but I know that through the stories that we hear and just kind of what we know about how that whole thing works, people don't answer with the word, I wanted more money. People say things like, I wish I spent more time with family. I wish I lived a healthier life. I wish I took more time for me. Yet here we are as society operating on a day-to-day basis, constantly focused on all the toxicity that comes through these smartphones and what everybody else has to say. And as it goes off, we pick it up and we make that a priority, just as you just said, over what we should be doing for ourselves versus, or we make everybody else's stuff a priority over what we should be doing for ourselves, period. Right? So just powerful stuff you just shared there. Let me ask you this. When did you actually realize for yourself, because I know for me, it's been a learning curve, right? It's been try, fail, learn, try, fail, learn, try, fail, learn, and just keep trying, failing, and learning. And all the while we are learning so we could continue to progress. When did you realize that, the key to achieving the weight loss, the relationship, success, family time was to figure out how to work with time? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that stuff in a big way.
Early on in my personal development journey, I was selling insurance, right? So like I had gotten a job. I was working with an in-law. I was selling insurance. I was the top sales guy, but I was also, when I met my wife, I was about 210 pounds. And at the time that I had this revelation, I was probably somewhere around 280. Now, with that being said, I was also living the quote, the dream, right? I had a good job. I worked Monday through Friday, no weekends. I got paid vacation, benefits, all that good stuff. I had a house, a white picket fence, but we owned a home. I had a beautiful son, a beautiful wife. Like I was living what we would call a good life. And what I found was that, like, obviously I was not totally happy with my physical self, having lost weight, gained weight, lost weight, gained weight my whole life. My wife and I weren't having the best relationship because it was kind of like, hey man, you got to get yourself together here. You kind of let yourself go when I had that baby, and like I'm back on track, and you haven't gotten that baby weight off yet. And so that was a hard thing. And again, having that conversation with myself, like I have a young son, I don't want to be that dude that's on the park bench wheezing because I'm overweight and didn't take care of myself and I can't be there to play and support my son. That's not a good example. And so I found that in the mornings, I would be waking up at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't have to be to the office until 8. And so I would just like snooze and I'd just roll and toss and turn. And I'd get up eventually and do stuff with the family, whatever. But like I really wasn't using that time. And I just told my wife one day, I was like, all right, like something's got to change. When I wake up and my body says it's time to get up, I'm just going to wake up and I'm going to go for a walk because my wife, God love her, she's like, you're never going to lose weight unless you do cardio. I was like, you're wrong. I
Yeah.
work out. I do all these things. Like, I don't need to, like, I ride my bike all the time. I don't need to do cardio. She's like, you need to do real cardio. And I fought her on it for the longest time. And wouldn't you know, she was right. Go figure, right? Wives are always right. And so I start getting up and I
Shout out to
start
all the
walking.
wives out there.
Hey, shout out to all the wives that were right that time. So I get up and I start walking the neighborhood block, the park. And it was like 3.5 miles. It would take me about an hour. So it was a perfect little morning walk. I'd be home by 5:30, 6 o'clock. I could help them get up and get the day started. And as I started walking, I started listening to podcasts like Jim Rohn and Eric Thomas. And I started listening to
Yeah.
Ryan Stewman and stuff like this, right? I went and found mentors who were living a life that I thought, hey, here's someone that I look at and I think of as successful for these reasons and in these areas, right? Just because they're super successful in business doesn't mean they have great relationships, and it doesn't mean that they're great fathers. Some of them are, right? There is a correlation between that discipline, but it doesn't always ring true. So, like, hey, why do I like that person? What is it they're specifically great at? And how can I learn and model that? And so I just started listening to these podcasts, and then I'd come home and I'd go to work, and then I'd come home from work and I'd hang out with the family. And then when I got into learning marketing, because I kind of was like, well, I need to make more money so I can provide a better life, I would go to home, do what I did there, and then I'd go upstairs and work from like 7 to 11 in the upstairs office. And then I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning the next day, and I'd just continue that process. And so as I started understanding, hey, these are all the non-negotiables in my life, the things that I know need to get done. Here's how much time I have to do them. How am I going to Tetris this mode together so I can get it all accomplished? Because I knew if I could just keep moving forward, eventually things would start clicking into place and I'd be able to buy back more of my time to do the things that I know I want to do or need to do to continue building the life that we're going to build.
So what happens if someone sets you off? You're on a course, you got your plan, you're going through your day, and then something just comes up and it's like, you're like, holy shit, like I got to deal with this now. Or just get some mind going. How do you stay focused or how do you get refocused? Because again, we're on this trajectory right now. Time says I got to deal with this. Something just happened in the time I got to be dealing with something. I got to stay focused on that because if I let this other thing come and take over, I'm done. You got like
Prioritize.
a little method to the madness there, or like how you do that?
Yeah, you got to
Or is that just mental
prioritize.
fortitude? What's that?
It's literally just prioritization. Like you got to
Yeah.
look at it, and they taught us this in the evolution. It's called the OODA loop. I don't remember exactly. It's a military term, but you got to like observe, and then you've got to like make a decision, and then you've got to execute. Right? Like
Right.
you got to see what's going on. You got to prioritize, and then you got to execute. So like, all right, cool. You have a plan, right? You're going in with a plan. This is what we're gonna do. Now the plan changes, something pops up. You're going to look at it and you got to decide, okay, is this the priority? If you've got 3 different things going on, which one is going to kill you first? All right, this is a military example. Like you're the guy here in the
Yep.
middle,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you've got a guy over here with a plane. He's an hour out. You got some guys over here that are like coming towards your team. They're about 2 hours out. And then you got a guy in a vehicle that's 30 minutes out heading your way, ready to blow you up. What are you going to do first? Well, you're going to get rid of the guy who's closest to you because you don't want to get blown up. Because if you get blown up, you can't help anyone else. You have to make that decision of like, what's the most
Right.
important priority right now? Execute on that first and then move to the next thing. And this is what I was talking about with boundaries and that confidence in yourself. There's going to be times where you have to tell people, hey, I'm sorry. A lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. So you're going to have to go and
Right.
figure this out. And when I get done doing what's more important to me in this moment, yes, I will be happy to come and help you. But right now, I'm busy. And some of that is creating boundaries, right? Like the door to my office is closed. If my son was
Right.
home right now, he knows when the door is closed, daddy doesn't answer. Daddy's busy unless it's an absolute emergency, right? And we
Right.
have to have those conversations and set those expectations of what an emergency really is. Like needing a snack is not an emergency. Pooping your pants would be an emergency, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
difference there. And he knows that. And I think that's the problem is people don't set those expectations of what's really an emergency. So when things pop up, they're like, it's all an emergency. Everything has to get
What do you
done
mean?
all at
Like
the
I just
same
got the
time. Like,
notification on Facebook. I shouldn't
yes,
just stop and look at my Facebook like it's no? All right, I'll put that
yeah,
down.
like yeah, I see obviously there's people messaging in the background and I'm in sales and then part of my mind is going like, hey, these are people that might want me to take their money and if I don't respond right
Right.
now in the middle of this podcast, they may go buy from someone else. But that's just scarcity mentality, right? That's what you learn to
Right.
overcome is like, hey, right now, this hour that I'm spending with David is far more important than any other conversation because if I do this right, it leads to hundreds more conversations on the back end after that. Not that that's what this is here for, right? We're here to help people, but like you have to
For
learn to
sure, man. No, but I
prioritize.
get that. Yeah, no, and listen, I appreciate that, and I operate the exact same way. The people that work with me know that. Now, as we're one of these people, okay, and this is it, like anybody tuned in right now, this could be us, but talk to me about doubt. Talk to me about imposter syndrome. And what do you say to
Mm,
anybody who has these thoughts go through their mind in a day? Because people will be like, okay, I heard David say it, I heard Drewby say it, I've got to stay focused on what I'm supposed to do. But I think I really need to answer that. Or I don't really know if I'm supposed to be doing that because, like, I don't think I'm good enough.
I
That
can tell you've done your
mindset.
research on this, David, because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about here, man. Um, Imposter syndrome, right? Some people know what it is. Some people are like, what the hell does that mean? So, imposter syndrome is that feeling that you get when you're put on the spot and you have to do something that you have that self doubt, right? It's like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Or like, I don't, what makes me deserve that opportunity? And I have to, like, I had this rewire and I want to share it with you. If you're feeling that self doubt, the imposter syndrome, I think personally that it's an integrity driven feeling. And here's why it's a good thing. Because if you have the self awareness to recognize that you don't know what you don't know, and that there's a lot more out there for you to still learn, when you get put in these situations, it's really you wanting to make sure that you never step into a situation where you're giving somebody the wrong information or putting them on the wrong path because you are an integrity driven person who genuinely cares about others. And as such, you would never want to be responsible for someone else's ill will or mishappenings because of the information you provided. And what better feeling to have before you step up and do something great than knowing I'm going to go all in on this because I don't ever want to feel like I didn't give it my all. Imposters know that they're making a BS, so they can go up there with confidence and lie out their teeth. But you feel that way because you don't ever want to be considered as someone who didn't come fully correct and authentic. And I think that's an integrity driven feeling. So if you're one of those people who's felt imposter syndrome, it's not that you didn't deserve that opportunity. It's not that you're not intelligent enough to deliver what they're asking for. It's that you recognize that you're not the mastery of the mastery of the mastery in your specific conversation. But here's the beautiful part: if you're being asked to present, if you're being asked to be a part of something like that, it's because someone has respect for the knowledge you have. And as long as you're never leading above the level you're on, i.e., I make $100,000 a year, but I'm going to try to tell you how to make 1 million, even though I've never done it, right? If you just avoid doing that and you say, hey, I've made 100,000 a year and I'll tell you exactly how I did it to get here, then there's nothing wrong with that because there are a lot of people out there who want to learn to get where you're at now. And the more people you help get where you're at now, the farther you can go in your own life. So when you get that imposter syndrome, sit down and remind yourself, hey, I feel this way because I know there's still so much farther for me to go, but I have to help those folks get here first. And as long as I show up correct and do my best to provide them what I can in this moment, I don't have to worry about what's to come.
I love that. I love that. And some great points on that. And I think that anybody who has those feelings really needs to understand those words and just pay attention to that. And I would boil a lot of that down in preparation, some confidence, not swinging above where you're supposed to be, authenticity, right? Be genuine to who you are and what you're all about. And yeah, if you're asked to be there, you deserve to be there. Now, hindsight's always 2020. How can we use this knowledge, so the stuff that we might look at, how can we use it in the present instead of just in the past? Does that make sense? Right? Because
It does.
we can always see kind of like what happened after the fact, but it's tough to see it there. How can we almost take that and say, you know what? I'm about to get in the past. Like I'm about to be able to look back on that and say what I did wrong. How can we use that though in like right now? Some of that knowledge.
So I think a lot of this comes back to the preparation, right? So the reason I say this is because if you just show
Okay.
up and you do the work every single day, whatever starts coming your way in the moment, you will be prepared for it because you'll have applied every bit of wisdom that you've earned with intentionality every day. Because again, in the moment now, we don't know what's to come in the future. Yes, we may
Right.
have an idea, but we don't know. But if we've shown up with intentionality at every moment up until this moment here, we don't have to look back in the past. We look in the past as we learn and continue growing. But to keep it now, we just say, hey, whatever I've learned then will be applied now. The problem is people live in the past because they don't want to change. They don't want to change the way they make decisions. They don't want to change the way they feel based on the actions that they take because ultimately you can't feel your way into action. You act your way into a feeling. And so the only way to do that is to be in the moment now and understand that we're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have failures. But every loss is actually a lesson when you apply it in that next moment.
So I feel like we've been talking about this for the whole this entire show already, but I'm going to ask it because again, it's one of these things that I kind of picked up on some of the stuff you talk about. But you know, in the world of sales, what is the mindset shift that changes the game?
There's really only two things you need in sales. And I got this, I really just took this from my mentor, Ryan Stewman, because his thing is taking all the complicated stuff and making it real simple. And so I try to model myself after that, right? And he did a great job. So I'm just going to give him full credit on this. Sales takes two things. It takes confidence and it takes empathy. Empathy being the most important part because when you can connect with somebody and be empathetic and let them know that you can listen, that you care, and that you are there to help them, that's what we do in sales. We solve problems. We're service providers. And when we serve at the highest level, then we're rewarded and blessed with that continued growth. So when you can be empathetic, it basically means, hey, I'm going to hear you out. I'm going to listen to what you say. I'm going to understand where you're coming from. I'm not going to show bias. And then I'm going to come in and be confident that, yes, I can either help you solve your problem with my product or service or a referral to someone I know who can. Or I'm going to be confident that we're not a good fit to work together. And I'm going to let you know that because I don't need to
Yeah.
waste your time. And I certainly don't want to waste my time. And so when it comes to sales, if you can just focus on, hey, am I working on my ability to listen? Am I asking good questions? And this applies in every area of life, right? Because sales is everywhere. You're selling your relationships on things that you want to do or ways that you want to behave. You're selling your clients on doing business with you. You're selling your employees on doing the job that they need to be doing, right? So being empathetic and listening to their needs first and then being confident in your ability to solve that problem because the bigger problem you solve the more money you're going to get paid for it. And ultimately in most sales organizations the problem is people are focused on the dollar first, not focused on serving the client. And I can promise you when you make that shift from selling to serving, that's when you take it to the next level.
Cool, cool. Okay, I like that. And again, for everybody, right? Like, you know, this is about the client. It's not about your pocket. When you focus on the client, your pocket will grow. But if you focus on your pocket, the rest of it will not happen. Not the same way you would like it to.
It's weird
Now,
how you have to shift that, man. It's the woo woo side of this whole
it's
world that
hard,
people have a
man. It's
hard time,
hard for
man. Like,
yeah. It's especially for those of us that love money, right? Like I don't shy away from saying that to people.
I don't hate
But in
money.
order to get there, you got to understand the path to actually getting there. It's not just about loving it. It's not just about wanting it. It's not just about getting up and working in a day. It's about, like you said, being empathetic. It's about serving other people. It's about giving to people. And yeah, woo
Mhm.
woo, woo woo. Everybody can call it whatever they want. It works. And when you read like Drewby says he does, which you all know I do, we spend a lot of time feeding our brain and really just trying to grow that muscle. You learn from so many different people, coaches, mentors, authors, celebrities. I mean, how they got there is not because they were focused on dollars. It's not because they were focused on just work. It was because they were focused on how they serve other people, how they help other people, how they do good out there. Now, all of this is in place, right, to help people become more successful. And your shirt right now actually reads, and again, I got to say that for anybody who's tuned in audio wise right now, but call the damn leads. Tell me this, right? Because sales, and to me, a lot of what we do, we talk about building mind share, and I sort of explained that concept to you last time we were talking. But how do you build mind share on the daily? Like, what do you find really works to drive new opportunities? Because before we can close or call anybody, we need to know who. We need to create more opportunity. Like what tips can you give us to create more opportunities? How do you build that mind share? And then how do you close
So,
those? I guess let's lump them together. And
yeah,
it's a
I
loaded
think
question, bro. So I'm not,
no, that's cool. I appreciate the shout out. I'm very very excited. I actually just got the official trademark for Call the Damn Lead, so I own this. It's a registered trademark
congrats.
now. So for those of you who are getting started in business, these are the long term legacy business assets that you got to start thinking big picture, right? When you own your intellectual property, that's when you start getting to that next level. So just want to thank you for that shout out. But like
Yeah, yeah, for
when I think
sure,
of
man.
Mindshare, right? When I think of sales, when I think of building a business and entrepreneurial life, the first thing you have to really get clear on is who do you want to do business with? Who's your audience, right? And more importantly, then, what problem are you solving for that audience? Because until you start getting a little more clarity and a little more specific, right, you can't hit a target that you don't aim for. And so, what I find is a lot of people aren't niched down enough to speak to a specific audience that relates with them, right? And we always use this example with real estate agents because this is kind of an easy one. Well, I'm a real estate agent. I just need more clients. Fantastic. I have about 150 dudes that want to sell $5,000 to $10,000 trailers over in the hood. Well, I don't want
Yeah.
those clients. Okay, hold on now, because you just told me you want clients. I got clients.
Yeah,
No, 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 not those clients. Okay,
right.
so you want someone who owns a $500,000 or more home in an affluent area who's ready to list their home for sale in the next 90 days. Yeah, that's who I want. Okay, cool. Now we're talking, right? That clarity of who you specifically speak to makes a world of difference in the content and the conversation that you're having. Far too many people want to sell anyone with a credit card and a pulse because it puts a dollar in their bank account. I'd rather have 100 great clients than have 100,000 shitty clients
Right.
because all of those shitty clients are going to ruin your business, but 100 raving fans will feed your family for a lifetime. So getting
For
clarity
everybody
on
that
who
knows
you
my
work
stuff,
with.
that's AMH, audience marketing then hustle. Sorry, just that's the
That's all
first
right. Hey,
part of the
man, you got to
equation
have
though.
a
It's the
process, right?
audience.
We've talked, this is it. It's a process, but you have to have an
Yep.
audience. You have to have the offer, and then you got to make it as easy as possible to help them get a hold of that offer, right? And some of that is content creation, some of that is websites and sales funnels and automations and all the back end, not so sexy, nerdy stuff that we talk about on the back end of building a business. But like at the end of the day, sales and marketing comes down to, hey, do you have an audience of people who need what you offer? Cool. Are you empathetic to their needs? Do you understand them on a deeper level than what they understand themselves? And then are you confident in your ability to show up and deliver that service? Cool. Now all you got to do is just go out and deliver, right? All you got to do is execute at that point. The plan is laid, the offer is there. Now you just got to put in the reps. Because every time you have a conversation, you either make a sale or you learn and move on to the next person. You learn, hey, this worked in this conversation and this didn't work in that conversation. This worked when I talked to this guy, but that same thing didn't work on this guy. And so now you start understanding, well, certain prospects have certain problems. And when you get down to it and you really get good at sales, you know there's one call, one problem, one solution. Because you know that every client that you're working with really has that one big issue that if you can just help them fix that thing, all the other ancillary stuff will be a non-issue. But the problem is, guys, it's like, well, I've got this product and it has 18,000 benefits and you're going to get this package and this value and this thing and this thing and this thing. And then it's all of a sudden it's like, well, man, I really only have one problem. And if I buy all this shit, I'm going to have 6 more problems because I've now spent money on something that I'm never going to use. And that's wasteful. And I'm not a wasteful person. So all of a sudden, all the benefits and features of your program or your product or your service that you think are like absolutely amazing are actually costing you the sale. Because until you can get empathetic and really listen to what someone's saying they need and digging deeper than that surface level, that's when you really start taking it to the next level, man, because that's understanding how to serve your clients at the highest level.
And as your shirt says, call
the damn leads.
We do our podcasts. We do our presentations. We do virtual. We do social. We do content. We do. I imagine that word call is just as important as everything else, if not more, in order to actually close all those opportunities.
So I'm going to share this. This is my formula, and I'm going to share it with your audience. So if you guys are in sales, I want you to hear me out, right? So I use this formula, 100, 10, 2. What does that mean? I'm making 100 outbound contact attempts every single day. That might be a phone call. It might be a text message. It might be a DM direct message on social media. It could be, an email. It could be a content blast. I don't necessarily like to consider automated messages part of that process. Mm-hmm. I can send automations to 10,000 people. I can spray and pray all day long. And yeah, I might get something, but I think that's obnoxious. And I don't want to teach my clients to do that. So I get focused on making 100 outbound attempts a day. I'm trying in that 100 contact attempts to have 10 serious conversations. And when I say a serious conversation, that means I've built rapport, I've asked the questions, and I've made them an offer to solve that problem. Right? So you're trying to make 10 offers a day, and then you're trying to close 2 sales. So that's assuming a 20% close ratio. 110-2, right? Now, here's the beauty of this. You don't have to get all 3 in a day. You only got to get 2 out of 3. Because you might make 100 phone calls and have 10 conversations. And I'm one of the top sales guys in my industries. And I'll tell you, there's days where I go 2, 3, 4 days in a row and don't close any sales. It's just the way it is. But then there may be one day where I have 10 sales all come ringing through at the same time.
Right.
Because I know I've consistently followed up with those people. So if I've had 10 really good conversations and closed 2 sales, well, I probably didn't have time to go make 100 outbound attempts. So my metric is 110-2, and I got to get 2 out of 3 every day, and it's going to lead me eventually to success because the law of large numbers always plays out in the end. So that's my secret.
All right. I like that. Thank you very much for sharing that. And it leads me to this question for you. Day's over. You've been through it all. What do you consider a successful day for you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I like that one. Honestly, man, did I knock all the things off my list that are on my calendar? Did I get more done than I didn't, right? What's the 80-20? Did I get at least 80% of the stuff that was on my calendar done? And did I make sure that other 20% got moved to another area? Because no day's perfect. There's always things that come up. There's shit that, you don't get done. There's opportunities that present themselves that you have to take in that moment because opportunity doesn't go away. It goes to someone else. So sometimes you got to take opportunity. You have to be like, oh, I've got a chance to hop on a private jet and go to Vegas today. Well, okay, cool. Let me move my calendar around a little bit, right? But then there are other times where it's like, hey, you want to go to Nashville with me today? It's like, nah, man, sorry, I can't. I've got a podcast that's really important and I can't reschedule that. As much as I'd love to hop on the PJ and go and do and goof off today, I've got more important things, because this is where prioritization comes in. Some days you got to turn down the fun because we put in the work now to plant the seed for the future. And so, like, to me, a successful day is, hey, did I look at my calendar? Did I wake up? Did I do the things that matter? Did I focus on gratitude? Did I do my genetics, right? Did I put in some sort of effort to move the needle forward in my life? Did I spend time with my family and the relationships that matter to me? So that when I go to bed, I can say, hey, man, did you crush the day before it crushed you? Did you do exactly what you said you were going to do this morning when you woke up? When you promised yourself, when you looked in the mirror and said, hey, crush the day before it crushes you, man. When you gave your son a fist bump and said, hey, crush the day before it crushes you, did you put in that effort and use it intentionally, spending that time where it mattered most? Because if so, God forbid I don't wake up tomorrow, I know I made today matter.
Powerful, bro. Powerful, bro. Powerful. Give me some final words, some tips, something we can share with everybody. Get out there, build some more mind share so they can get some more market share and just take themselves next level. Please, sir.
Hey, man, if I can give anybody one tip, it's asking themselves what their time is worth. And I'm going to give them one more formula before we go, because I love formulas and processes, right?
Do
If
it.
you want to know what your time is worth, look at it like this. Take whatever you made last year and divide it by 2,000. If you made 100 grand last year, divide it by 2,000, it gives you 50. That means your time is worth $50 an hour because you spent
Why
2,000
2000?
hours working. Here's how you come up with that. 50 weeks a year, 40 hours a week. Because assuming you take 2 weeks for vacation, you don't got to work weekends, right? This is just your standard 40-hour work week. And what you do in that 40 hours is 100% up to you. I don't care. Just make this simple, right? Whatever you made last year divided by 2,000, you got 50. Now you know your time's worth $50 an hour. Let me ask you this, though. This is where we're going to really give them the takeaway and the lesson here. If you only got 24 hours left to live, are you still going to sell me that hour for $50? Well, let me ask you, why don't you treat your time more importantly? Why don't you value your time the way that you should value it? When you start thinking that way, then you don't have to worry about anything else, because you're going to treat your time with intention. And when you start doing that, man, things get done.
There is no way in the world many of my regular listeners believe that you and I have probably had our first official conversation today. They probably think we talk all the time based on this message today, brother. This has been absolutely powerful, man. I thank you very, very much for making the time to join me on the show. Love the message, and I think there was a ton of learning there, a ton of formulas that people could take away. And I'm hoping for everybody that's been tuned in between the live and the audio, that you've hit pause a few times to take some notes. And if you haven't, rewind, start this thing over again, get that pen out and start taking some notes. Man, where can people find you?
Hey, I appreciate it. First, before I even share anything about me, man, David, let me thank you for taking time to invite me on here and be a part of this, man. This is the stuff I love. I get a ton of value personally out of sharing this message, man, because I know if one person that was listening to this takes something away and makes an impact in their life, that's legacy stuff, man. We're making generational impact doing this. So if anyone wants to find me, hear my more of my message, some of my stories, go to connectwithdruby.com. It's got a link to all my socials. You can download a free copy of my book. You can check out all my courses, all my fun stuff, man. But more importantly, stay tuned in. Leave David a message. Give him a review. Leave him them 5 stars. Like, take some value out of this story and use it in your life. It's not about listening to us share about the things that we've done in our life. It's about implementing them in your own life to create that success. So connectwithdruby.com. Send me a message. Let me know this helped you. It would mean the world to me, but I also know it would mean the world to David if you go on and leave him a review as well. So if anything, man, I'm just honored that I could be here with you today.
Dude, this has been an absolute blast. I can't wait to do it again with you. I thank you for the support, the connections, and I encourage everybody, connectwithdruby.com. Go search him out, follow him on Instagram, listen to the message. The minute I got introduced, I've been motivated ever since, and I just, dude, love the message, love the connection. I'm very, very grateful you took the time to share with us today. So one big thank you once again.
Rock and roll, man.
You're either watching us on, maybe you're watching us live. Maybe you're listening to this recording, iHeart, iTunes, Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, you name it. Maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you were on my site, make sure to download the free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook. We've actually adjusted it. It's not just for realtors. It is now for sales professionals, small businesses, anybody looking to go next level with their marketing. build that mind. But it's got 31 pages packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you, ready to go 90-day social media content calendar. All of it, again, to help you build more mind share so that you can get more market share. You can also grab a copy of our daily planner. That will help you keep you organized day in and day out. And of course, if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, get in touch with us. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you are looking to achieve and how we will help you do just that. Also, want to remind you, as Ruby just mentioned, please don't forget, go ahead and enter yourself into the draw to win some free swag. You do that simply by leaving a very, very wicked review over at www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare 101. We'd be very, very grateful if you took a quick moment to do so. And of course, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare 101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. I want to take a moment to thank the Buzz Conference for response to today's episode. Be sure to check out all of the awesome events they're always hosting, including getting the latest copy of the Buzz digital magazine. And of course, I want to thank Kids Keeping Systems for sponsoring today's episode. Remember, you are not marketing properly if you are not using the one-to-one marketing suite by Kits. So check it out. Go to mindshow101.com and click on marketing. Of course, don't forget to check out mindshow101.com/retreat so you can learn about all of the details of our exciting M3 retreat taking place in the beautiful Playa del Carmen. Space is limited, so go ahead and hit up that link right now. This has been another episode of the Mindshare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.